All right. Well, let's get started. We're really excited to have Dan Keough with us, CEO of Holmes Murphy. I've known Dan for a long time, and I thought we could just sit here and just talk, but I did give him some questions ahead of time. Dan and I have been getting together for many years, but this symposium we put together really focuses mostly on the carriers, so the planning committee thought maybe let's get somebody from the brokerage side, and we're like, we got the perfect person for that. So Dan, why don't you just tell us a little about yourself, your business, and kind of just level set the crowd a little bit.
Yeah, so thank you, first of all, for being here, and then also for the invitation to be a part of the symposium. I would say that my relationship with you goes back a while, and I think Nick is symbolic of what's great about our industry. He's a giver, he's smart, he's curious, he's trying to solve problems. He gives to others that he thinks he can help. Whether it's young college kids or high school kids, he comes in and speaks a lot. So I appreciate our intersections have come around, just kind of those types of opportunities at Holmes Murphy and other things that we're trying to do in the community. So I appreciate that. A little bit about myself. Again, I'm born and raised in Chicago area. I found my way to University of Iowa through
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks, right?
Drake, but yes.
Yeah, and then so in 6 kids in our family, 4 of the 6 went to Iowa. I played baseball there, which was a gift for me, and that's indirectly how I found my way to Holmes Murphy in Des Moines. Married my wife, who is my best friend. Next year in August will be our 30-year anniversary. 4 boys. My oldest, Daniel, plugged for Drake, went to law school here, so he got through and is gainfully employed. Married his high school sweetheart, which is also nice. And then Jack and Mike found their way. Holmes Murphy has a non-nepotism agreement, so no kids can work in Holmes Murphy. So they found their way to Chicago in the insurance industry, and they're loving Chicago. And then my youngest, Mark, is at the University of Iowa, and we all things in the Keough family is good. And then, as it relates to just getting involved in the insurance industry, I didn't think I'd be in the insurance industry, candidly. When you grow up in Chicago, you think you're going to go down to the Board of Trade and do something in commodities or equities. And I just was looking for an internship, and I got an opportunity to intern at a large publicly traded insurance broker in Chicago, and I love the people. I love the culture of the company. I never thought I'd leave, and it's really smart people trying to do good things and try to solve problems for clients. Insurance brokers aren't really widely known as a career, so it's not like something a lot of us set out to do. But I think we have the best seat in the house as it relates to, we're in between the customer that buys and needs insurance and then ultimately the insurance companies that provide the products and services. And so we're in the middle of that. And we take it as a high responsibility to understand our clients, their needs, and then bring the right consultative advice on how to position themselves to be the best attracted risk for insurance companies. And so that's a little bit about me and how I found my way directly into the insurance industry.
That's interesting. Very few people, other than some of the Drake students here for extra credit, thanks for being here, go into insurance intentionally, which is why I like Drake, because they do have that program here, and we're very blessed in Iowa to have a couple of schools focused on that.
Yeah.
So you've seen a lot of changes in the business over the years, Dan. What would be the most significant changes you've seen since you've been in this business from start to kind of where you sit now?
Sure. I think from Holmes Murphy's perspective, I think I'll speak there and then I'll talk about the industry. But Holmes Murphy, I joined them when we were a small insurance brokerage firm, directionally a regional firm that had a handful of offices. And over the last, 20 some odd years, 25 years, we've grown to be kind of what they would label as a super regional, where we have, offices from Minneapolis to, technically Grand Cayman, and then kind of the mountain states on the west to maybe Chicago. And we've grown our size and scale and capabilities to basically have all the resources and capabilities of national brokers, but we just deliver it on a little different level. And so, I've seen us, grow and expand our business, and managing growth is a challenge for any business leader that might know that, because abundance is sometimes a problem when it's scarcity. Creates a little bit more of an innovative mindset. And then in the industry, we've seen a tremendous amount of consolidation. And so, on the insurance brokerage space, it used to be where, public brokers, you'd have bank-owned agencies, and you have private companies. And so private equity has found our industry. And, initially it was find the opportunity and then transact it. But, there's been really more private equity roll-ups where they've found it and stayed in the industry. And so, the mix of talent and the mix of view of those that compete in the industry has changed dramatically over the number of years. We've stayed true to who we are, and, we have employees that own our company, and we just believe that, Ellen Willitson, our former CFO who leads our innovation now, she had the line where she's like, we're very private. It's just our equity, it's so the employees buy the opportunity to be an owner in the company. And, we think that brings a different mindset to serving customers and solving problems. And, we think that's an advantage in the marketplace today. I think that the types of risks that, we interact with and the types of, things that our clients, need advice and consultation around has changed also. And so whether it's societal risk or, global risk or certainly different types of risks that have emerged, I think that, broadly, the business is more complex than it used to be. If you think about the value chain, it used to be, pretty simple in terms of the buyer and then the one in the middle advising, and then the insurance company over here providing coverage. And now in the middle, it's been unpacked. So an insurance broker today might do any number of things in the value chain, and there might be 6 or 7 opportunities to provide claims, maybe take on a captive, risk profile. You might be able to do some risk consulting. You may be able to do, stand up a program and do an MGU type category, help them with reinsurance. And so, what is a broker is not what a broker was maybe 20, 25 years ago.
Could you maybe unpack the MGU program for some of these folks?
Yeah, so if you have, we've got, I'll just give you 2 live examples. So we started a company this year called Innovative Program Solutions, and we saw a need in the market for clients that were joining a captive that all of a sudden they were leaving a bundled program, which means they'd buy all their coverages from one carrier. And they would go into a captive for their major lines, but these other lines, their umbrella or their property, may be repriced because it's not part of a full package and a full lineup. And so we just felt like, if you take the umbrella coverage as an example, the repricing was so dramatic that it was priced as a standalone risk in the market, when really, if you think about what a client's doing when they join a captive, they're taking on their own risk for a certain level up to a certain amount. So they're betting on themselves not to have claims, or certainly not to have big claims. And, big claims you can't really predict, but you just hope that good solid risk management, avoids the frequency of those. And so we created a program around, giving the underwriting pen to a certain team that actually priced the risk based on the risk itself, not the perception of just what the risk was at a certain standalone umbrella placement. We looked at deeper into it and said, okay, they're taking their own risk. We have their own, track record. We know what their losses have been for the last, 10 years. And so we stood up a program that allows the underwriting to be more bespoke to what the risk really is. If you go back to pre 9/11, just as an example of, perception of risk, before 9/11, we had a bunch of fuel haulers that were in a captive, and they, the day before, they were fuel haulers going from A to B and going to convenience stores to refuel. The day after 9/11, they were looked at like bombs. And so the perception of risk changed, and all of a sudden, the re-underwriting and the re-perception of like that risk is different. And some of that's real, right? But the frequency of that is not real. And so that's where you get some mispricing based on perception versus reality. And that's just an example. Another one of the programs is a client of ours has car washes, and they have thousands of car washes all over the country, and they want their car wash dealers to actually have the right coverage and the right way to adjudicate claims quickly for clients when there is a claim. And so they developed a program around that, so they would have better coverage and better way to respond to risk on the claim side when claims do happen.
That's great. So many years ago, you and I were talking about InsurTech, obviously, and what it was going to do to the industry. And kind of back then, 2013, 14, 15, the adage was, well, we're never going to need brokers or agents. And I remember you and I talking about how we thought that was greatly exaggerated. So as we sit here about a decade later, 2025, what do you look out and see the role of the broker and the agent in the future and the impact with InsurTech? How do you see this playing out going forward?
Yeah, so if you go back, I mean, the first InsurTechs were basically saying we don't need a broker. Zenefits was the name of a company that started, and within 6 months, their valuation went from like zero to like $500 million.
And then almost back to zero.
And then it went back to zero, but because they didn't follow any laws or regulations, or any of that stuff. But
minor details.
Their story was really powerful, and I always use that as the example of like it was the bullet that came across the industry's head, and it just missed. Their story was around technology can solve your problem simpler, faster, and cheaper than the industry's brokers. They don't add value to this complex world. And so it could be further from the truth, but when you're a buyer and your prices are going up every year in health insurance, you're looking for anything that would give you hope. And that certainly gained some momentum until it lost all the momentum. So that was the bullet. And then, that fortunately we missed that one. But at the end of the day, we have a responsibility to add value in the equation. We're a part of a cost structure. So if you think about it, what they were trying to do is eliminate a cost structure in premium, which we represent. And so, I think if you look at that point, we said, we don't know what we don't know as it relates to InsurTech. We took a very, open-minded approach to maybe somebody knows more about risk and risk management based on their experience and perspective than we do being in the industry. So we should be open to their ideas and their thoughts. And so we welcome them in through an accelerator type structure that Nick's been involved in, and Nick's involved in a lot of InsurTechs. But, the don't know what you don't know is a good way to learn. And so what we did is we created a program where we learned more about what they thought, and it's been been a good.
So I guess it's fair to say you don't think agents and brokers are going away in the next 10 years either.
I don't think so. Okay. No, I think if you look at, over the last several years, the growth in the alternative marketplace has been immense. The complexity of risk and advising is even more valuable today than it was before. I think that tech is a tool, and certainly there's a lot of great tools out there, but the role of broker has probably never been better.
So you mentioned broker tech ventures. I'm going to want you to explain that a little bit to this group, but I have a few questions along that. And, that's a great innovation for your side of the industry. And I think the story on how you created that would be really good for this audience. But kind of walk us through why you decided to do that, some of the key lessons, and then would you do it again?
Yeah, so, what it is, Broker Tech Ventures is an InsurTech, kind of an incubator company. It's a 5-tower business. And so I'll explain, each of the towers in a minute. But why we started it was, we at Holmes Murphy, we have a fairly entrepreneurial environment. If you go back to our former chairman, CEO, Doug Reichart, he was always looking to start, take ideas and create businesses out of ideas. And, to his credit, we've had some success in that regard. Business Solver is an example of that, where we started a company with Principal Financial Group, Data Vision, and Holmes Murphy. And it was all around just creating an online platform to have employee benefits interact more seamlessly for the employees of employers. And that went on to be very successful. It's in the industry today, and it's a respected platform, acknowledged in the industry. So that's one example. We started another company called Naturally Slim, where it was all around the convergence of metabolic risk to a tech platform, and then we scaled that business. We had clients like Google, American Airlines, Southwest Airlines, and we got an unsolicited offer from Summit Partners out of Boston, and we transacted that business. And then, we started Innovative Captive Strategies, a captive consulting company. We've started other things, and so we've got this idea around always like starting things and finding the entrepreneurs to do it and getting closer to kind of the actual experts in what they think the opportunities are for our clients. And so everything that we try to do is anchored around our understanding of our client and our understanding of the industry. And so that's why I think some of that has been successful. Broker Tech, came to us through, the insurance, the Global Insurance Accelerator that was started downtown, that actually there was all of these solutions that were really geared toward insurance companies. And so, we had a relationship that Susan Hatton at our firm introduced us to Brian Hemeseth, the executive director, and we kind of listened to like, what is it? What is it? You were involved in it, obviously, and like, should we do something like this for the broker community? And he's like, I don't know why you wouldn't. That's wide open. So if you think about Des Moines, Iowa, having the two first accelerators that stood up, one for insurance companies and one for insurance brokers, is really unique. And it goes to show you just the entrepreneurial collaborative environment that we have here in Iowa, certainly, and the competency that exists in financial services, and all of us working together, which is a great story nationally. And so, we learned about what an accelerator is, and then one of our better decisions was we decide not to do it ourselves. So we're a collaborator within the industry, and we try to convene the best and brightest minds around the country to basically create an ecosystem that would benefit our customers. And so we collaborated with other insurance brokers and insurance companies. And today, BrokerTech Ventures is made up of directionally 30 insurance companies and brokers, 15 and 15 each, that come together to find the next insurtechs that want to come into our industry and get access to our customers, or get access to the value chain that insurance brokers, wholesalers, and insurance companies participate in. And so we've had a lot of success. I wouldn't have told you that 6 years ago or whatever, we'd have 65 or 67 investments in insurtechs. So we've learned a lot over the years. It's not big bets, they're small bets, but we've done follow-along investments. So I would say that Holmes Murphy probably has made, I'm going to give you directional numbers, I'm not exactly sure, I probably should know this answer, but our CFO would definitely know it. But, we probably have about $10 million of direct investments in tech companies. If you count other things that we've done in the past that we've transacted, it's probably bigger than that. But we're also part of an ecosystem that, we stood up a mutual fund or a fund of funds of sorts with Manchester Story here in town, where we've got another $35 to $40 million that we're investing in InsurTech. And so we're trying to help identify, support, and bring forward these InsurTech companies that we think could be valuable to our clients. The holy grail, in our opinion, is really not the administrative or carving out cost or those things. There's a lot that's there that could be of advantage to all of us, including our clients. But really, what our thesis is around trying to help our clients identify risk sooner and drive down costs faster. So if we can have more transparent cost based on our ability to give whoever's pricing the risk better insights, more timely insights on true risk, then we believe that we're doing the best for the industry by being transparent about what the actual risk is and isn't, and how can we get on the client side, get our clients priced out in the best way. The other thing is what we're trying to do within Holmes Murphy is just reposition how we think in the industry, because if we're on the front end of innovation, on the front end of seeking out these tech companies, we want insurance companies that they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars on innovation. And we want them, if they're thinking about who do we work with and collaborate with to get this through and to our customer, we want them to think of Holmes Murphy first, because we're the ones that are leading the charge. And so all of those things I think are advantages to our customers. We think it's advantages to our position in the industry. And we also think it's advantages to our strategic relationships out on the insurance company side.
That's great. So through BTV, have you guys and gals ever figured out something you want to have built and found somebody, or is it all InsurTechs coming to you? I'm just curious.
So I think, since in the last 5 years, we have 3 capabilities I can think of that have been emerged from the broker community, specifically involved in BTV. So there was a data exchange platform called Highwing. There's another capability called Faro, and then there's another agency management platform called Borrowed Time. And I'm probably missing other ones. Ellen's probably back there. Ellen, any other ones that you could, how am I doing? I'm doing okay. But so, that's, if you think about it strategically, changing the way our employees think about it at the desk, their ability to see opportunities and then come forward with, hey, I think tech could help us make this inefficient process or this problem for this client. We can view it differently and then maybe get them to take things forward and build these tech platforms or solutions would be really powerful. And that just creates a smarter company, and a smarter, advisor for our customers' benefit.
That's great. So I want to stay on the topic of BTV. I've heard you talk about infinite game philosophy. So tell us more about that, how it impacts your businesses and maybe even the industry more broadly.
Yeah, so the book, Simon, that's written by Simon Sinek, The Infinite Game. How many have read it? Anybody? Okay. The premise is that there's two types of games. There's a game you play to win and lose, right? So I win, you lose. Or there's an infinite game where the whole idea behind the game is to keep playing the game. And so we're on the side of we want to just keep playing the game. And so when you have that mindset, you figure out that it's not competition, it's co-opetition. And so we believe that our best competitors can actually make us better. And so if you have that mindset and you think about it in that way, the industry all doesn't see it the same way. So it's like a nebulous thing. It's like an invisible line. So where's the line? So the line would be what is pre-competitive, where it's not a competitive advantage for you or me. But then there's a line that says, this is how I compete and win because I have something you don't, or I have better insights than you don't, or I have a competitive advantage that you don't have. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but that line isn't an exact line. So what we're trying to do in BrokerTech Ventures is try to have the industry work together to try to create kind of what that line is. Because we believe if we can clarify the line of where it is that's pre-competitive, then we can actually talk about more winning solutions to drive down the cost of the industry together. And so we can scale capabilities faster. We can do things that other industries have already done in banking and other things that we can actually do, and maybe in a more organized and regulated way where we're all working together. But if we're all competing to win, so I win, you lose, it's hard to create the culture and the environment around an abundance mentality of how can we all win. And so we want to all win. We want the industry to win. We want each of our competitors to win, particularly if we can find ways to make the industry more efficient, effective.
That's great. So off script here, sorry. How'd you figure out who was kind of in BTV? I mean, you said you got 30 30 carriers and brokers. So walk me through the thought process on how that came in terms of who was going to participate.
So I think, if you go back, the company I started in 99 with Holmes Murphy was a captive consulting company, and we had an agreement up front that we would work with other brokers around the country. So we had already established trusting relationships through innovative captive strategy and candidly some of our other capabilities that we've scaled with other brokers. And so when we started BrokerTech Ventures, I would call some of my friends and I'd be like, hey, Nick, I'm going to start a new company. It's called BrokerTech Ventures. I have no idea what we're going to do, but it's going to be really cool. Do you want in?
How much?
Yeah. And so, and I was like, and they were like, well, what are you going to do? And I said, well, here, and I asked everybody for a 3-year commitment because you really can't create value and stickiness, unless you have enough time and at bats. And so everyone that started, is still involved. The folks that were acquired, we had agreements that if you are a national broker and, that you would sell you'd leave BrokerTech Ventures as a community. But the people that are involved are still involved today, and it was really just a collegial way to get it up and running. And then on the insurance company side, Travelers was the largest trading relationship with all of the agencies and brokers involved. And so we thought it was important to start with Travelers to get them involved. And so we, through relationships, just explained what it was, and they just were like, they thought it was like crazy, and they're like, but we're in, which is great. And then after that, we've just added people that have expressed interest in getting involved. And it takes a couple of years to figure it out because we've got different levels of engagement for different types of leaders in organizations. The CEOs get involved at some levels and CIOs get involved in other levels, but we've got people at the desk that actually really see the transaction and understand the risk, get involved in other levels. We've created new roles within our company. We've recruited new people. We've got, Chris and others here that are in innovation roles. And so we've got, just things that we didn't have before today that we now have in there. We've created little communities across agencies and across the industry that are all collaboration. I can't remember, labs, I think this is what they're called. Collab Labs is.
Collab Labs?
Yes, Susan's Collab Labs. I'm not a marketer. Susan's our marketer. She turns all these ideas into magic. But
she translates your stuff. Yeah,
she does. Yeah, she does in a really well way. But there's things that we do differently. I think that was one of the things. We had an idea early on around getting connected to colleges and universities with the idea of changing the way that younger students see how they see insurance. Because when you say insurance, they might think one thing, but when you get in the front door, you realize that it's completely different. It's high integrity people that are really smart, that are trying to solve and help others. And I think that's what attracted me to the industry. And I knew this much. And then once I got in a lane where it allowed me to express a little bit of my competitive energy, it's still fun. It's fun to bring people together and accomplish things that you couldn't otherwise do on your own.
Absolutely. So you've talked off script again. Sorry. You've talked about private equity on your side. How has that impacted sort of the brokered? I mean, I'm more familiar with the IMO kind of BGA, but in your side of the world, how has private equity impacted the market in terms of rolling up some of these folks? Yeah.
So I mean, the simple is the industry used to be valued at a certain times EBITDA or a certain time revenue multiple. And today, because private equity is in there, it's pushed those multiples up probably by, in many cases, 3 to 5 times of what it was. And so the value of the industry has gone up immensely. And so, that's why I say that the broker community is, it's and the insurance value chain is being unpacked. It's a good place to be for young, smart, college students that were forced to come here by their professor. But hopefully, it turns out to be a good career move on your part.
Good advertisement. Kind of along that line. So, I guess when you and your partners think about that, do you see that as risks? Or I mean, none of your infinite game theory, but or the bigger they get, it's easier for you to have customer interaction and service, or how do you think about that?
I think what I would say is that we from our perspective, we think that we have less risk, not more risk, and so that's just the pure economics of we're able to take bigger risks, knowing that our business failure pays pretty well in this industry. So if you fail and you have to sell your business, you would sell it for much more than it's valued at to yourself. So that's one. Two, back to the infinite game and just how you play the game, by the fact that, you're having different type of skill sets and different folks, involved in the industry with different motivations. If you look at the cap stacks of these companies, the cap stack drives their motivation. And so if you're private equity backed, they have to roll that every 3 to 7 years. And so they got to find somebody new, they got to create value, and how do they create value? They have to grow, or they have to carve out expense, and then they sell it again, and they have to do that again and again. When really what we want to do is we want to find the best people, and we want to have them learn and grow the business the right way and do that forever. And if we can do that, we use time to our advantage where they are under the clock, whether it's quarterly earnings or other things. And so, it sharpens your bench. We have to have the best talent in the industry to compete against the firms that are larger than us, that have more resources. And so we think we do a pretty good job of that.
I think you do too. The last panel kind of talked about AI. When you and your partners think about artificial intelligence, can walk me through. Is that a threat? Is that opportunities? Do you see kind of both sides of it?
Yeah, I think that we're going to have a smarter consumer. We're going to have a smarter industry. I think the machine is going to be smarter than, every human. I mean, at the end of the day, they're going to be able to tell you the answer faster, do things quicker. It's what you do with it. It's that human interaction in the middle that, candidly, as brokers, we've been in the middle between those two. So I think how we consult with more enriched intellect within the environment is, what our challenge will be in terms of adding value. I think, I was talking to one of our EB leaders on the way down, and she was just remarking on how she got a 30-page slide deck and a strategy document, and she asked Copilot to give her a summary, and like 7 seconds later, it spits out this 2-page executive summary, and I'm like, now that's, if you think about what AI is going to do, like that's, if you think about it, our constraint is our time. So that's like your biggest constraint. Your next constraint is what you know, and then the third is what do you do with it. And if you think about AI being like a differentiator, but how you can get information consumed at such massive scale and get to the right answer faster, it frees up your time, it gives you the right information, and then what do you do with it? That's today, whether it takes you 2 hours to read the strategy document or 30 seconds to get the output, it's what you do with it. And what we have to do is be really smart about what we do with it. And so we've got to get smarter faster, and like that's solved because now you get the AI tool, and then it's what do you do with it? And so you got to make sure that you leverage your time to create more value going forward. And that's the same thing that we have today, whether it's carving out the administrative stuff. I mean, that's easy, and there's going to be the repetitive things that, when you think about like an admin, they're going to be able to do way more, and they're going to add way more value to who they're working for because they have faster ways and more tools to get things done. And so I think it's an exciting time. I think the folks around the investment side, not that I'm an investment advisor, but I mean, I think you're in the early innings of transformation. I think it's going to continue to come. I mean, if you go back 5 years, everyone was like, what is Broker Tech Ventures? Why are we doing it? And how is it going to add value to my job? And then how is it going to add value to my relationship with my customer? And I'm like, you know what? I don't know. I really don't. But what I do know is we're flying planes with machines. We're driving cars with machines. My guess is some way we're going to figure out how we can use technology to add value to what we do every day for you and like what you do, and then our customers. And that just changes the way people think about how they can interact and open their mind to the potential of technology and how it can enrich their life.
That's great. So Holmes Murphy has a very large book of corporate clients all over, all sorts of different industries. You do a lot of worksite, you do captive structures, you talk about risk management generally. So as you think about HMA and the next decade or so, what do you see as, I guess, your business risks for your business, but also some of your corporate clients?
Yeah, so I still think from every business, whether it's Holmes Murphy or customers, I mean, what we don't know is probably still the risk that I think about. We never saw a pandemic coming, and so when it came, what did we do with it, and then how do we react? And hindsight, looking back on it, knowing what we know now, it'd be like, God, I wish I had that over again. I would have done this over. I would have done this different. I would have thought about it in this way. And but I think that schism provided an opportunity for a lot of us to rethink what the relationship that we wanted with our work and how we wanted to live our lives. And so, there was societal shifts at that time. And so whether it was mental health on the challenging side or how people want to show up at work or don't show up at work because they want to be, work remote or work in the office, that was an issue, and that was a dimension for employees or customers of ours, and certainly Holmes Murphy. But those are all things that we didn't know at the time, and those are things that we came out of it. I think that, with AI, there's going to be a lot of things that we don't know. I mean, there's going to be segments of the economy that are probably hit hard just because the tools and resources that hit that certain segment. But in overall, the big picture, I think it's going to provide abundance for society. So I think there's going to be a societal lift. I think when you look at, the risks that are out there, cyber's not going away. You and I were just having a brief conversation about that. I think protecting data is really a challenge. We're all hoping the cloud doesn't crash. But there's a lot of information out in the ether, and so protecting it and doing the best you can, and being stewards of it, I think is probably a challenge that we worry about a lot.
So Holmes Murphy has got a great culture. You got some college students here. What advice would you give these college students about whether it's Holmes Murphy or just the insurance industry more broadly to think about it as a career?
Yeah, I think I'm a big fan of just getting engaged. Whether it's a club or an internship or a conversation with like somebody like Nick who's willing to take the time. I think people in the insurance industry and certainly people in Iowa have a culture of paying it forward and sharing their time and energy. And I would take advantage of that. It's different than when I grew up. Certainly in Chicago, I didn't have that access or understanding. And I do think that kids today are smarter than we were, and
way smarter.
They're,
for me at least, I can say that.
Access to information and tools and technology. I mean, one of the challenges that businesses have is that technology has to work for them, not we work through technology to get things done, and that's where we're at in some of these things. It's a great industry, and I think that the sky's the limit on what you can do. There's a lot of different ways to add value in the industry. There's anywhere from client-facing roles to the roles that actually support people that serve clients or serve the business. There's a lot of different opportunities for smart, ambitious kids to do well in the industry.
Absolutely. And I'm going to probably ask one more question. So if you have an audience question, start thinking about that. But obviously, insurance for all our careers and well before that, it's been a relationship business, and technology sort of, I think, enhances that. You still see it being a relationship business, something that you do with your customers and clients going forward, just using technology to enhance that?
Yeah, I do, because they can get the answer without you. So why would they do something with you? I mean, so the relationship, in my opinion, is going to go up, not down. And so if they can chat GPT what my cyber policy should cover, they don't need to call an insurance broker. So I think you have to think about what is value in the eyes of your customer, and every customer might have different views on what that is. But I think understanding, we have a core on what we do, and it starts with understanding. I think you'd have to take the time to understand not only the person on the other side of the desk and what they value, but certainly understand their business and their risk to be of value to them. And so I think that, the human connection is going to be more valuable going forward than less.
I agree, and I'm going to have my renewal tomorrow with his team, so hopefully,
hopefully
you educate me. In all seriousness, we got some time for questions. I could ask one more, but I wanted to, Tej, go ahead.
The Gen Z and Alpha are showing attributes that are phenomenal and different from our generation. As you think of your succession, both of you actually, as you think of your succession plans, which of those attributes excite you the most to replace you?
Yeah, so when I joined Holmes Murphy, I had the fortunate to see different transitions, and so what we're trying to do is, we're trying to do better than what did before. Like our idea is like find super talented people, put them through a process, and give them the reins early to make decisions and make mistakes. So we've been working on a transition for probably 5 years now. We've got a leadership team that's really smart. I think it's less about what they know, and it's more about how they care for others. And like if you think about no one can know everything. And so if you think about it, it's not what you know, it's about what the collective knows. And so leveraging the team and then showing care and empathy towards others. I mean, I think with our company, all we have to offer our clients is our people and what they know and what they do for them to add value. So if we don't have a leader that's caring and understanding, or a culture of care and understanding, I think that's what excites me.
I think it's all good. One of the things that at Holmes says our mantras we're building for the next 100 years, and we're a mutual company, so we can take our time. Sometimes that's used against us because we can go too slow sometimes. But looking for those leaders that are exciting to move the ball forward. Our business is very relationship driven as well, and so understanding that you have to put the customer first, and we're very sales oriented. So we look for those types of attributes. When I think of Homesteaders 10, 20, 30 years from now, I'm looking for people that will be fearless, leveraging that technology, be compliant, or compliance officer over here, so be compliant. But at the same time, always looking ahead to say, how are we going to be relevant to the families we serve, take care of those families we serve? Because again, we're leveraging the technology, but if we take out the empathy and the human side of it, you don't need us, and we're a commodity. Like, our product's absolutely a commodity. Okay, there you go. Yeah, Tej doesn't need a mic.
Thank you. So when you think about the future, is this on?
Oh.
I could just yell.
Yeah, just yeah. I can hear.
I love your confidence,
Yeah,
by the
I can
way.
hear you.
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
beautiful. So when you think about the future of the insurance industry or the career of insurance brokers and or Holmes Murphy, I'm going to eliminate AI technology, and we just discussed the new generation that's going into the industry. What excites you the most, and what keeps you up at night?
Okay, so I think the pace of change probably is the thing that I would say that would keep me up at night. I think that people can only handle so much, and when there's so much coming, and it's coming so quickly, and change on top of change on top of change on top of change, at some point, not everybody can run the same race, the same pace. And so I think that would be one that I would think about. Was that your full question, or was there another half? It felt like there was an and and therefore in there, so.
It was what excites you as well besides, It's what excites you as well besides AI and technology and the new generation that's coming into the industry.
Yeah, so what excites me is the talent of the individuals coming in, how prepared they are. I mean, the curiosity. I mean, they're light years ahead of where I was. I wouldn't even. I always joke about this. I wouldn't get hired, today at Holmes Murphy. There's kids that are smarter, faster, all that. So I'm just glad I made it in when I did. And I
Turned out okay for you. So.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we've got a great internship program. We've got a high school program. We've got a brainery program, and we've got a nice culture where we support each other. But the people coming in really make it special, and their level of engagement really makes Holmes Murphy unique.
No, I would echo that. I would say I've been very involved with the Insure Your Future internship program, and that's for freshmen and sophomores.
Yeah.
And every summer when I interact with those young people, it just blows my mind. Again, they're far ahead of myself as well, and just to see people thinking about this as a career. I think they had over 100 interns doing that program, and Holmes Murphy does have a great internship program for anybody looking. But I do think it's just seeing that curiosity and the fact that people are thinking about it at that age. And that's why Iowa is such a great place to do business, because there's a lot of talent coming up, and there's a lot of retirements coming up.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I got time for one more, maybe. But. All right, I don't see. Well, let's give Dan a round of applause. Thanks for coming, Dan.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, everyone.